I edit one, it edits all of these other elements. So you can see that this 4x4 is replicated throughout, and any change I make gets reflected. So we're going to add a little bit of personality to the post because this is going to look more realistic. So when I create these renders, I like to try and make them realistic because then it helps give more levity to the property and the renders. The more you can make it realistic, the better you will be. Alright, I'm making this geometry a little bit too complicated. There is, however, another way to do this. There. Much better. So now we have that post looking a little bit more realistic. So now what we're going to do is create the other posts. So they are all about about one. So we want to paint the entire thing, and then we're going to do that same thing and give it a slight taper. I'm drawing a blank on the actual word, but essentially what we want to do is give it a little bit of an edge, and that will allow us to actually go from here and create something that looks like the real project. So again, we're going to create two lines here. We're going to do the same thing on both sides because we want this to be part of a group. And we're going to Wow, sometimes you work with technology and then it's just so uncooperative. But that works. So now what we can do is go to this and then do about, I think it was about 4 inches. So that's about the spacing that we want to have. And that will give us a nice bit of distance so that whenever we are measuring this, we have consistency. So now we have this perfectly aligned, right? So now we're going to hop into this plank, make sure it is a group, and then we're going to go down here and grab this intersection very specifically, and then go to this guide point. Now, when I divide it into an array, we are going to get posts that are equidistant based on the quotient. So we want about 4 inches of space between each of them. So what we have to do is figure out what amount gets us to that 4-inch spacing. So it was at least 24, so it's at least 28, so it's at least 32, looking like it might be 38, maybe even a bit more. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. This is not critical to the design. This is just representative. So that was almost right. It seems to be 39. There is a mathematical way to do this, but to calculate it, you know, it's just not necessarily something that's concerning, right? You want something that's expedient. You don't want to calculate every value. This is just over 4 inches, close to 5. That is perfectly adequate. So the actual fence has a bit of variation, and it has more of these 4x4 posts. So what I should do actually is put another set in here, but we're just going to get a more illustrative option right here. So we want to do the same thing. Check this out. This is some fun stuff. So we're going to duplicate this group and move it right here, and then boom, look at that, perfectly aligned in 2 seconds. God, I love technology. So of course I say I love technology, and then technology proceeds to make life slightly more difficult for me. No matter, I have conquered it. So we duplicate it, we go there, boom, once again, very rapidly in line. Now this one actually doesn't extend all the way, so what we're going to do is go here, but see, if you move this, it actually extends those because these are components. So we have to make both of these unique. But we don't totally want to do just that, because then these two will not be synchronized if they get moved. So if we do this and use that as an inference point, the software will know exactly how far down to move it. You can see now it's level. So these two are now the same. So these will synchronize, whereas they won't with the others. So now we have two identical boards that are synchronized on their appropriate corresponding side that do not have any issue with the side. So now we have a pretty decent fence in place. It's not completely accurate, but it's fine because it gets the point across. So we're going to replicate as much of this as possible. But there's something I should do first, and that is create a 4-inch marker, as I should here. Now, when I go along the red axis, it's perfectly aligned. And now it is in 4. So we rinse and repeat. It looks like it's about this many. That was almost correct. It's a little off, so we're going to fudge it just a smidge. This is more illustrative in nature. It does not have to be actually perfect. Now that we've more or less split the difference, the actual fence looks a bit more appropriate, right? More realistic. And now we flip this and we have a pretty convincing fence. It just has to be moved a teeny bit. There we go. So I'm going to modify this because there are actually 2 gates, one here and one here. So we need to go into this fence. And this will give us a better representation of what we are actually working with. So again, what we're aiming for is not perfection, but practicality. So we're going to make, again, both of these unique. But first, we're going to remove them. And the fastest way to do that is to isolate and separate the geometry. By essentially bifurcating it with a rectangle, we can actually isolate it and separate it like that. So now, this is all still one component. We're still not quite done. We have a gate to put in here. Bifurcated. And there's actually supposed to be another gate here. We're going to circle back to that a little bit later. I don't want to jump the gun at the moment. I actually want to hop over to the other program so we can hop into the garden a little bit more and enjoy some of the design work. So now we have a pretty decent base. I'm going to get to the back side of this later. It's not critical at the moment, but this is obviously a lot more representative of what we're working with. So if we go to Twinmotion, which is my rendering software, we can see it has already updated. Now we're going to fix this floating terrain issue later. Right now we're going to do some of the fun work. You can see there are some texturing issues. We're going to fix all of this later. That's just tedium. We're going to get into one of the fun parts now, which is actually putting in some vegetation. So I do have an entire plan here. So when we look at our scenes, where is it? Here we are. So we have different options. So this is based on an annual and perennial mix. So these are existing beds, and this one is a cutting garden, and we're going to be working with all of these. So this is south. What we're looking at is shorter plants that gradually get taller, and we're looking at tubers in this section. So things that are going to be routinely dug up and the soil shifted will have this. We'll have cool weather crops in an area that's slightly shadier, and we're going to focus on cucumbers and tomatoes because those were two of the most requested crops in this instance. And it might be fun to do a corn patch here. We might do a larger grain or pumpkin patch or more traditional agricultural thing down the road, but right here I thought this would be a fun idea. And granted, it will grow kind of tall. It might shade some of this out, but we might move it here. This is not necessarily final. This is just the tentative plan. So once we go here, then we're looking at the plants. So we want a couple different things. We want vegetation, we want bushes, and we want plants. So what I'm going to do is move this into my other window so I can reference the design and I can plant accordingly. This is one of those things that essentially allows you to have a much better understanding of what's going in, because sometimes clients don't know what plants look like three-dimensionally until they actually see it, right? So what we want is to first create a group. Organization is key. So we're going to plant one plant here and then get started. Now, this bed here. Okay. This is nasturtium, which is a great plant. It is an absolute climber. So I'm not going to organize all of these beds just yet. I will later, but for now, this will do. So nasturtium is a great plant. You can eat the flowers, you can eat the leaves. It has a peppery flavor and profile just like arugula. So now we want the other plants, which are where flowers now. We are going to be wanting to put some clover in there. Oops. 30 plants, garden plants. This is what we want. Okay, so I love the range here. You know, it's not like everything is... It's not like everything here is actually edible. It's ironic they actually have castor oil plant. This is the bean that is responsible for the ricin poison. So this is, it's kind of funny they have it here. You know, it's like if you want to design your little James Bond poison garden. But we're not going to be doing any of that. We're going to be looking at more edible arrangements. So I have some of those plants downloading, but what we want is